When the name Donnie McClurkin echoes across the gospel world, it's more than just a name, it's a heartbeat. His voice carried entire generations through storms they thought would drown them. His words stitched together souls that had already given up. To millions, Donnie wasn't just a singer. He was proof that pain could sing too, that scars could sound like healing. But the story that's unfolding now feels different. It's not another comeback. It's not another testimony. It's something that shook believers to their knees, a twist no one was prepared for. Because behind the man who told the world to stand when they fell, something fragile was breaking in silence. Donnie's life began in Amityville, New York, in a world that seemed to love him and hurt him at the same time. When he was just 8 years old, tragedy struck like lightning. His little brother was killed in a car accident right before his eyes. That day didn't just take a life. It shattered Donnie's innocence. The pain lingered, hiding behind every note he ever sang. And as if fate hadn't done enough, the darkness deepened. Those meant to protect him turned into his tormentors. The years that followed were filled with abuse, confusion, and unbearable silence. Yet somehow, out of that suffering, music found him, like a voice whispering through the ashes. The church became his safe place, and his voice became his weapon. Every song wasn't just worship. It was a cry, a confession, a wound singing its own truth. Then the unthinkable happened. The same boy who once hid in shadows became the light for millions. Songs like Stand and We Fall Down became anthems of survival. In prisons, hospitals, churches, his voice was there, reminding the world that broken people could still create miracles. But behind that powerful smile, behind the thunder of applause, Donnie McClurkin was still fighting something unseen. The fame healed the world, but it didn't heal him. Nights were quiet. Rooms were empty. The loneliness that fame couldn't touch sat next to him like an old friend. He often admitted that trust never came easy. Not after everything. And sometimes when the stage lights dimmed and the crowd's roar faded into silence, he would sit alone and wonder, what would his life have been if pain hadn't followed him home? Still, Donnie never pretended to be invincible. He told the truth, even when it hurt. He confessed that sometimes faith feels heavy, that even the strongest believers can break. But then, destiny took a sharp turn. His family stepped forward with a truth that froze the gospel community in shock. Donnie was fighting a serious health battle. Not just something minor, not something the tabloids could twist, but something that was quietly stealing his strength. And his voice. The very gift that had carried him through everything was now slipping away. They didn't reveal the full details, but what they did say was enough to make millions fall silent. For a man whose songs had kept others alive, it felt cruel that now he was the one in need of prayer. Yet even then, Donnie refused pity. He smiled through pain, stood through weakness, and sang through suffering. Because that's who he was. A man who believed that no matter how dark the storm, the music must go on. But what his fans didn't know was that this time the storm was darker than ever. His voice, the same voice that had carried millions through heartbreak and despair, was beginning to tremble. The notes that once soared effortlessly now came with pain. But even as his strength faded, Donnie refused to stop singing. Because that voice wasn't just sound, it was survival. What makes his story almost unbelievable is how much he had already endured before this moment. Years ago, Donnie's life nearly ended in a violent car crash. The wreck twisted metal, shattered glass, and left him broken in every sense of the word. Bones fractured, body bruised. Yet somehow he survived. But survival came with a price. That's when the voice, his gift, his identity began to falter. His vocal cords weakened, trembling in ways that terrified him. Singing wasn't just his career. It was the only language his soul understood. Losing it felt like dying twice. And now, at 65, that same nightmare had returned. Stronger, crueler, and more relentless. His family revealed that the pain was different this time. Deeper. The kind that no prayer circle could fully explain. But Donnie, being Donnie, never once asked why. He just whispered thank you. They say that even on nights when his body throbbed in pain and his voice barely held together, he would still rise, close his eyes, and sing softly into the darkness. His house would fill with the same sacred energy that once electrified entire arenas. That's who he was. A man who taught the world that faith doesn't erase suffering. It gives it meaning. When word of Donnie's condition spread, the reaction was instant and heartbreaking. Churches fell silent. Fans across the world cried openly online. The man who once healed their pain was now silently fighting his own. But this chapter of his life, this hidden battle, revealed something no stage or sermon ever could. His family confessed that Donnie had always been private, protective, even secretive about his struggles. But this time there was no hiding. The truth had to come out because his body was no longer letting him pretend. Behind closed doors, even the simplest tasks became exhausting. Walking long distances drained him. Standing too long during performances left him trembling. And sometimes during rehearsals, his voice would fade mid-song, leaving him gripping the mic in frustration, eyes closed, fighting tears. But here's what shocked everyone. Instead of slowing down, he pushed harder. He kept showing up, kept singing, kept believing that somehow, if he just kept praising, strength would return. He once told a close friend, "If I can still speak, I can still praise." That line, raw, defiant, unshaken, summed up everything about him. It wasn't just a quote. It was a declaration, a warning to the darkness that he wasn't done yet. But this is where the story takes a turn no one expected. Behind the faith-filled smile that inspired millions, Donnie McClurkin was fighting a quieter, heavier battle, one that couldn't be seen under stage lights. For years he'd been honest about one truth. He never married. That choice, mixed with the deep scars of betrayal and fear that followed him since childhood, left him emotionally alone. And as his health declined, that loneliness began to echo louder. Those closest to him said that Donnie would sometimes sit in silence after a sermon or a performance and whisper, "I gave my life to ministry, but when the lights go off, who's left standing beside me?" Those words pierced through his fans' hearts, because for the first time, the man who had taught them how to stand was quietly wondering if anyone would stand for him. His days grew slower. Mornings came with weakness. Nights brought pain that refused to leave. But even when the ache became unbearable, he never let despair win. When words failed, he hummed hymns into the darkness, small prayers disguised as melodies. Music had always been his language with God, and even when his voice faltered, the conversation never stopped. Unlike so many public figures who hide behind filters and facades, Donnie let the world see the truth, that faith and suffering can exist in the same breath, that sometimes believing doesn't mean smiling, it means surviving. And the world responded. When news of his declining health broke, social media turned into a sea of prayers and memories. Fans posted old videos of his live performances, the ones where his voice would shake church walls and hearts at the same time. People shared how his songs helped them survive divorce, death, addiction, and loss. Churches across the country began holding special prayer nights in his name. Pastors called for moments of silence. Congregations wept. For the first time in years, Donnie wasn't just the one leading people in worship. He was the one being lifted by it. But destiny once again wasn't done testing him. His doctors urged him to rest. His body demanded silence. He was forced to cancel a string of performances and ministry events, something that tore him apart. To Donnie, the stage wasn't fame, it was purpose. Losing it felt like being exiled from the very thing that gave him life. His family said those days were the hardest. He would sit at home, reading messages from fans, whispering, "They still need me. I still have songs to sing." But his body simply couldn't keep up. Every attempt to push through left him weaker, reminding him that no matter how strong faith is, the flesh has its limits. Yet even in the silence, he found new ways to connect, with God, with music, and with those who loved him. He began spending quiet evenings with family, writing songs not for charts or churches, but for healing. His sister revealed that some of those unreleased songs were so raw and emotional that they left the room in tears. She said softly, "It felt like Donnie was preparing to leave the world with his truest testimony, one last time." Then came the moment that stopped the internet. A short, shaky video appeared online. Donnie sitting in a chair at home, eyes closed, his hands resting on his knees. His voice was faint, trembling, but filled with something sacred. He sang a few lines of an old hymn. The caption read, "Even in weakness, God is still strong." The clip went viral overnight. Millions watched. Thousands commented, promising prayers and gratitude. It wasn't his best performance. It was his most human. That moment reminded the world that Donnie's legacy was never about perfection. It was about faith that breathes even when the body is breaking. Because even as sickness crept closer, his heart was still focused on others. And that is what made what happened next even more devastating. As Donnie's body weakened, his words grew stronger. He told his family not to cry for him, not to pity him. "If this is my final test," he whispered, "then let me pass it with praise, not fear." That one line spread like wildfire, across pulpits, timelines, and hearts. Because it wasn't just a statement, it was a lesson. Faith doesn't end when life gets hard. That's when it begins. But as the months passed, the test deepened. His health began slipping faster than anyone expected. Some mornings he couldn't make it to church. Some afternoons, he could barely speak above a whisper. Still he joined every prayer. Even when all he could do was close his eyes and mouth the words, he refused to let silence win. This season of his life revealed the man behind the voice. Not the performer, but the believer. Even as his body faded, his faith caught fire. "If God trusted me with pain," he told his sister, "then he must trust me to show others how to survive it." But there was something deeper happening, something no one fully saw. Donnie wasn't just fighting illness. He was carrying the emotional weight of a lifetime. Memories, regrets, loneliness. His family said some days they'd find him sitting quietly by the window, staring at the sunset with tears in his eyes, softly humming hymns only he and heaven could hear. When they asked what he was thinking, he would smile faintly and say, "I'm just thanking God for the journey." Instead of surrendering, he found purpose in pain. He started calling old friends, praying with strangers, reconnecting with church members he hadn't seen in years. One pastor recalled Donnie calling him late at night, his voice weak but steady. "Don't let your struggle stop your worship." That single sentence broke the internet. Because Donnie wasn't preaching anymore. He was living the sermon. But destiny wasn't finished with him. His body continued to fail. Every step took effort. Every word came slower. Still, when his sister begged him to rest, Donnie smiled and said, "I'll rest when my purpose is complete." Those words terrified her. It sounded like he already knew something, a quiet understanding that his mission was reaching its final chapter. Then came the night that everyone still talks about. Donnie insisted on attending a small church gathering, even though he could barely stand. With help, he walked to the front and gripped the microphone. His voice trembled, but his message struck like lightning. "I've learned that miracles aren't always healing," he said softly. "Sometimes the miracle is being able to worship while you're still in pain." The crowd wept. The internet would later call it the night faith spoke through pain. From that day forward, Donnie's message transformed from performance to prophecy. He no longer asked why. He simply believed that God had trusted him to be a living example that even brokenness can shine. And it did. His story brought revival to people who'd lost faith. Churches united. Strangers prayed together. "We fall down but we get up" became more than a lyric. It became a movement. Yet, even as the world prayed for his healing, Donnie began speaking more about peace than recovery. "Maybe the healing isn't for the body," he said quietly. "Maybe it's for the heart." It was as if he'd already made peace with what was coming next. In his final months, Donnie's world became slower but fuller. He laughed with family. He prayed with nurses. He comforted visitors who came to comfort him. Even as his body failed, his spirit burned bright. He listened to his old songs, tears rolling down his cheeks, whispering, "God really gave me these words for a reason," because deep down he knew. His music had always been his ministry, his legacy, his goodbye. On a quiet evening, surrounded by those he loved, Donnie gathered enough strength for one last prayer. He thanked God for every trial, every song, every person who ever believed. He said, "Life isn't about how long you live. It's about how many hearts you touch." And as the final amen echoed through the room, peace filled the air. Not the peace of silence, but the peace of a man who had finished his race. The world didn't just mourn him. It reflected. Because Donnie McClurkin's story proved one eternal truth. Faith isn't measured by how loud you sing, but by how strong you believe when the music stops. His pain became his ministry. His weakness became his message. And his legacy is still lifting broken hearts today. Because Donnie's story wasn't about fame. It was about faith that refused to die.